It's Tuesday, May 14th, Wednesday, May 15th, if you're on the East Coast, across the pond, or down under. And this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, broadcasting to you live from the Great White North on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, including Deep Talk Radio and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, currently under construction because we're making it bigger and better, all for you. Tonight's show is brought to you by the YouTube channel in Suho. Sebastian Martin brings high-quality messages to the masses. Head to YouTube, click on Insuho, and subscribe today. Tonight we do a show that, honestly, we really don't want to do, but it's the only way to pay tribute to the Godfather of Ufology. The legendary Stanton Friedman passed away yesterday in Toronto at the age of 84. For decades, the brazen physicist was one of the top voices of reason and knowledge when it came to the study of UFOs. Although he never saw a UFO himself, he was convinced there was something happening from the stars that shouldn't be overlooked by mankind. Stanton was born in July 29, 1934, in Elizabeth, New Jersey. He would get his Master's of Science degree from the University of Chicago in nuclear physics in 1956. From then through 1970, he would work for General Electric, McDonnell Douglas, General Motors, to name a few. But his passion was in the stars and UFOs. Fascinated with the Roswell incident, Stanton would become the most noted voice of the cover-up and one of the very few to research a second crash that day in San Agustin, New Mexico. He would also take the lead in investigating the Flatwoods Monster and so many other cases. Stanton loved UFOs and was frequently traveling around North America and the world to discuss the alien phenomena. His husky voice appeared on numerous radio shows, including this one 3 times. He sat in front of congressional hearings and spoke twice in front of the United Nations. Stanton was North American. Born in the United States, he moved to Fredericton, New Brunswick in the early 1980s with his wife of 41 years, Marilyn, eventually becoming a proud Canadian citizen as well. However, Stanton wasn't without his controversy. He publicly battled with SETI Shostak about extraterrestrials visiting Earth. He got into words with Carl Sagan, accusing him of ignoring empirical evidence of UFOs visiting this planet. He was a loud voice against Bob Lazar and his time at Area 51. But now that the legend has gone silent, with numerous books, YouTube interviews, and records of a great man who was smart enough to know there's more to this world than what we see on this planet. Joining us tonight are some of his longtime friends. Chris Rutkowski, Canadian UFO researcher and author. We're going to hopefully touch base with Victor Viggiani tonight. Tom Whitmore, representing MUFON, whom Stanton had great respect for. Stephen Bassett from the Paradigm Research Group. The paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall and legendary ufologist Peter Davenport will join us at the bottom of the hour. Chris Rutkowski, I want to start with you because you and Stanton over the last 30 years became quite good friends and really are part of that Canadian backbone of ufology. What happened when you found out the news of his passing?
Well, I was a little bit shaken because I'd known that he had retired, as most people knew, but in his retirement he was still very active, still doing a lot of appearances, doing a lot of shows, and was looking forward to some cruises. I had last spoken with him maybe about 3 months ago or so. We keep in touch quite a bit, and to hear some news, there was a rumor circulating in the internet a few years ago that he had passed, so I thought maybe this was another one of those, but I did some checking, talked with Paul Kimball and a few others, and when I verified it, I was really sad, and I just sort of sat back and just did a little personal thought tribute to Stan, because he was my mentor since the 1970s when we first met. He actually stayed over at my place to save some money one time, And we got to know each other quite well over the years, and I visited him in Fredericton in his home, and I got to know the other side of Stan that most people don't know, the personal side. He was a very good family man, and he really was an advocate, a very strong advocate for ufology, and some are calling him the grandfather, the elder statesman, the spokesperson. He was all of that and more. He was certainly a part of our history.
Very well said. Stephen Bassett, you have done so much work over the last 20-plus years with Stanton Friedman, from congressional hearings to conferences around North America and the world. What's your thoughts, my friend, on the loss of this pioneer?
Stan, for me, was a colleague. We never really had a chance to develop a personal relationship because, well, let's face it, he lived in a remote part of Canada, which I think they only discovered in the 1930s. But we had multiple interactions. First and foremost, when I held my first X conference in 2004, one of the most important and wonderful things that I enjoyed doing was giving awards out. It was an opportunity to do that, so I gave awards out at the banquet, and Stan got the first Hall of Fame award that PRG gave out. He gave out eventually 6 of these. 7, because one posthumous. And he got a Hall of Fame award, and this was because, let's face it, the people in the extraterrestrial phenomena research field don't get a lot of kudos. They don't get a lot of awards from their governments or anybody else. And this was an opportunity to show appreciation, because that's not the only currency you've got when you travel this path. So I did that in 2004. And then in 2013, Stan was a witness, one of the witnesses at the Congressional Citizen Hearing on Disclosure, which I'm so glad that happened, and he was able to do that. And once again, having that experience, as you know, he was involved in the 1968 hearings, which is one of the pioneering things he did, one of the most important things he did. But perhaps his most important contribution was that Stanton, because he had an actual ongoing career as a nuclear physicist and an impeccable background, he's a conservative man, he was no wild radical, he was able to go and do things that others could not do. He became sort of an icebreaker, cutting through a sea of skeptics, opening up a path for others to follow. So he would get on some of the shows before others could. He was able to get lectures at colleges. He was able to get attention to the issue from mainstream media ahead of a lot of others. And that just basically laid a platform on which we could stand. And so, and I say that intentionally, he really, in that sense, made his greatest contribution. He had a sense of humor, but he was a serious guy. And that's reflected in a Stan story I could tell you. In 2007, the 60th anniversary of the Roswell event, I attended. And, I'm sorry, the 1997, rather, the 50th anniversary, the big one, 20,000 people. I was there. I wasn't well known. I'd only been in the field about a year. But I'd done a couple of coast-to-coast AMs, so I'm out there. And I was involved in a petition that Bob Dean was working, a Roswell petition about getting the government to acknowledge Roswell was real. And I think that the term disclosure was in play. I think I am starting to put it in play at that point. And so I had these petitions, and we brought them to the huge Roswell Festival, 20,000 people plus, hopefully get a lot of signatures. So we're out there handing out these petitions. And I walked by the restaurant, and Stan was sitting in the restaurant having breakfast with Jesse Marcel Jr. They were sitting across from each other in a booth. And so I just walked on up and introduced myself to Stan and Jesse, and I sat down, and I started to talk up the petition to Stan. Now, this was 22 years ago, and at that time, Stan was not, he didn't really like the idea of this disclosure or the government coming forward and confirming. He was a conservative guy, and he felt that There was a lot of secrets, a lot of national security there, and the government shouldn't be putting that out. They should not risk having that information come out. And I didn't argue with him. I wasn't going to argue with him over that. I listened. But the cool thing was that as he and I were exchanging on this, Jesse Marcel, without saying a word, reaches over, slides the petition in front of himself, and signs it right there.
Nice.
I love that. And then as 20 years go by, and you may know that in the last couple of years, Stan come around, and he was supporting the idea of disclosure. He felt it was time. He felt we had the right to know. And that pleased me greatly. I just regret terribly that he couldn't have hung around just a little longer, because we're almost at the finish line. And I would have loved to see him there with us, knowing how many accolades he was going to get from around the world in a post-disclosure era.
Thank you for that. Victor Viggiani joins us from Zealand Communications. Victor, thank you so much for staying up late and doing this tribute. Being on the East Coast and part of the Alien Cosmic Expo and all of these different UFO events, you've worked pretty closely with the legend Stanton Friedman over the last number of years. What's your favorite memory of him?
Just it's great to be with you, David, and just to bear witness to one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Canadian involved in this extremely complicated issue. You asked for memory. I have several of them. One of them is in 2005, and Steve Bassett was there too. We called upon the Honorable Paul T. Hellyer to come forward as the first cabinet minister of rank to come forward and talk about the UFO issue and government secrecy. And I invited Steve Bassett and Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, and Steve to come to the Convocation Hall at the University of Toronto to speak to all of those issues. And Stanton was there as he always was. And I echo Steve's sentiments that Stanton was a very conservative individual, but when it came to when the tire met the road, Stanton was there in spades all of the time because he knew what this issue was all about. And he spoke bravely at the Convocation Hall in an address among, I think we would probably look at well over 450 people. And Stanton was the first Canadian to make that statement at the University of Toronto in the same way as Mr. Hellyer did. So he took a position with a man of cabinet rank, and Stanton must be credited with that fact because it was a major disclosure or element in the disclosure issue. And that period of time, Stanton came to my house, and he stayed for a while, actually several hours before he caught a flight back to his hometown. And we sat in my home and spoke about the UFO issue at length. And I was literally, David, astounded by this man's breadth of knowledge about the UFO issue and his memories, his contacts, and his outright bravery to come forward and say things that not a whole lot of people were prone to say at the time about the UFO issue. And as Steve said, this was a man who really had a great sense of humor, but he also had a very definite strident side to him, and he didn't suffer fools easily. And one of the fools he did not suffer was the United States Air Force. And he came out in a very bold way and challenging the U.S. Air Force to come forward and acknowledge what this issue was all about. And that strength of character, I think, will ring forward for everyone who's involved in the research today. And anyone who's beginning their research in the UFO field today needs to listen to, watch, and read about the work of Stanton Friedman, because he was indeed a frontier breaker in this whole issue.
Gentlemen, I've just been handed a really cool note here that we have first-time listeners listening in on KDNF AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas. So we want to say hello and welcome to all of you to the Spaced Out Radio family tuning us in, wondering what this is all about. My name is Dave Scott, host of Spaced Out Radio, and we are very proud to be broadcasting to all of you live on our Stanton Friedman tribute tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Tom Whitmore, we bring you in here because you are part of the MUFON board of directors. Stanton Friedman has always been a very big supporter of what you guys have done over the years. What does Stanton Friedman mean to MUFON? over the decades?
Dave, Stanton Friedman has meant so much to MUFON. And in fact, I think if I could pick out one individual that has probably meant the most at our symposiums, it's been Stanton Friedman. And I've heard his UFOs are real talk many times at a number of symposiums. And he was a wonderful speaker because he was speaking constantly, traveling around the country, speaking to civic groups at universities and at UFO conferences. I remember back in the 1990s, I was the state section director here in San Antonio, and he came to town. Our local MUFON group sponsored him, and he and I appeared on a local news station, and he even gave a private audience at my home with members of our local group. And he was just so available to others who are interested in the subject, and it certainly, I think it certainly helped get me off on the right foot in understanding the orientation of the UFO field, and I just can't speak highly enough of him. He has spoken probably at more symposiums than any single person, so he's been very important to move on. And at one time, he was on the board of directors himself.
Fantastic, fantastic. Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer, you're somebody who has represented another legend in the field of ufology for a number of decades, in Peter Davenport. What does it mean to you when you hear the name Stanton Friedman, and what does it mean to you now, knowing that he has gone to the stars himself?
Well, I tell you, this is just a turning point, I think, in the entire history of ufology. I think when we look back on this 20 years ago, 20 years from now down the road, well after disclosure, I would hope, we're going to be looking at the entire life of this intrepid ufologist who is not shy at coming out and telling people about the truth of UFOs and potential alien life from other planets, and the Roswell, New Mexico crash that seems to have started the entire modern era of ufology was basically born through Stanton Friedman's good works. The first time I met Stanton was through Peter Davenport, my good friend and colleague, at the McMinnville UFO Festival, which is just about ready to happen again. The 20th annual McMinnville UFO Festival will be starting this Thursday. And I was thinking back about 4 years ago, we were all at the conference. And I don't know if you know this, but at that point, we almost lost Stanton at that time right there at the conference. Because at one point during the speakers' brunch that they have, where all the speakers get to kind of do a round table discussion, up close and personal with all the people who come to the speakers' luncheon, he actually almost choked to death on a piece of food. And it wasn't for the quick thinking of the gentleman that was sitting next to him. Just out of the blue, happened to be an EMT, did the Heimlich maneuver and basically saved his life. That was 4 years ago. And I think about what we would have missed up to this point without 4 years of the last 4 years with Stanton. That would have been just tragic. But again, I believe Stephen Bassett is correct there, that I just wish he could have held on a little bit longer, because I tell you what, we are on the cusp, I believe. And maybe this is an impetus that we can all use to put a little bit more pressure on at this point for disclosure and indeed confirmation from the powers that be of what the truth is out there. I'm looking forward to that, and I think that would be a great legacy for Stanton Friedman.
I think so, too. And Chris Rutkowski, we bring you back in here right now because Stanton himself had always stated that he never saw a UFO, yet he had this strong belief that there was an alien presence in the stars and potentially here on Earth. In all the conversations that you ever had with him, and we only got about 2 minutes before we go to break, why do you think a man of his knowledge, of his education, would believe such a hokey story about UFOs and aliens?
Well, I think we have to go back to his time in college and his time when he was working with some of the corporations. I mean, he had this mind that was very inquisitive. He wanted to know. He was working with some advanced propulsion systems, as everybody knows, and with some very interesting developments. And so he was in the right profession at the right time. And when he had seen some of the books, Ruppel's book, for example, and others that he was really attracted to, he started wondering, is it possible? And it was just through the development of his curiosity and reading through some of the material and talking to more and more people that he arrived at the impression that flying saucers are real, and he was very audacious to state that explicitly. He was not apologetic. He was one of the last nuts and bolts ufologists, and his legacy will definitely live on for quite some time.
We can only hope. We can only hope. But Chris, as I want to finish this off, we got about a minute here. We don't see a lot of young people stepping into the shoes with the same type of limelight that Stanton commanded. He commanded that respect because he gave that respect back. When you look at what Stanton brought to the field, is it and I hate to use this term, is it a breed of ufologists that is just no longer, because of the age and the people that he got to deal with coming into this field from Roswell on up?
Well, it could very well be. I mean, the aging of the ufological community has been commented upon many, many times at conferences. When Hynek passed away 20-some years ago now, everybody looked to Stan as the new voice for ufology. And, of course, now who speaks for ufology after Stanton Friedman? That's going to be something that people are going to have to think about very hard in the next little while.
I think so. We are joined tonight on a Stanton Friedman tribute. If you're just tuning in, Stanton Friedman, legendary ufologist, passed away yesterday in Toronto, Ontario at the age of 84. We've gathered some of his good friends. Chris Rutkowski, UFO researcher, Stephen Bassett from the Paradigm Research Group, Victor Viggiani from Zealand Communications, Tom Whitmore from MUFON, Michael W. Hall from the UFO team, and we're going to be joined at the bottom of the hour by legendary ufologist Peter Davenport as well. We also want to give a quick shout-out to everybody listening in for the first time on KDNF, AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio family. I hope you enjoy what you're about to hear. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio right after this. Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thaw, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio, you can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you along with us. Remember, if you miss part of this show or others, you can go to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio. Listen to any of our archives for free. All we ask is that you hit that subscribe button. And, of course, our website, spacedoutradio.com. It is under construction. We're making it bigger and better because that's what you, the listeners, wanted. Once again, a quick shout-out to everybody listening in for the first time on KDNF, AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas. Great to have you part of the Spaced Out Radio family, along with the rest of our affiliate stations. Tonight, we are doing a tribute about Stanton Friedman, the legendary ufologist, passed away yesterday at the age of 84 in Toronto, Ontario. Our group tonight, Chris Rutkowski, Michael W. Hall, Stephen Bassett, Victor Viggiani, Tom Whitmore, and now we've been joined by a legend himself in the field of ufology, Peter Davenport. Peter, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Thank you so much on this heartfelt night to have you here with us. And I know you worked a long time with Stanton Friedman.
I did indeed. He was a wonderful guy, and I extend my most sincere condolences to his family and loved ones. We will all miss him. He was the father of modern ufology, clearly. The spokesman, probably the unofficial spokesman for all of us. And we will all miss him, and he's going to be very difficult to replace in the UFO community, I sense.
Do you have a favorite Stanton story that you would like to share that maybe most of us don't know? Maybe one of those intimate details?
Well, he and I talked on many occasions, as I'm sure all of the gentlemen on the program with us tonight have talked to him. The thing that stands out in my mind is his paper on the question of why aliens would come to the planet Earth. He wrote a very elegant paper. I have a copy of it, and I read it from time to time, reread it. He pointed out, and I think it's very good reasoning, that they would want to come to the planet Earth for the benefit of minerals and metal. And the more I think about that, the more I recognize that it's the product of very good reasoning on his part. It would be very difficult on other planets to burrow down through many miles or tens of miles of methane ice to get to the point where you could harvest minerals. On Earth, it's much easier to do. And he was the one thing that I admired about him, among many others, is he was a pragmatist. He had his feet solidly on the ground. He never, as far as I know, he never overextended his data, and he was a consummate scientist, for which I commend him. And he brought a great deal of the scientific method into the field of ufology, and that may be one of his greater, or the greatest contributions he made, among many. So he did an excellent job of investigating and most of all reporting on the UFO phenomenon. He was a prolific author, for which I commend him as well.
Victor Viggiani, I want to get your opinion of what Peter said. I mean, just the way everybody speaks about Stanton, it's always in extremely high regard. Was he just one of those men that everybody liked?
Yeah, I think so. He had a really dry sense of humor. I recall when he was here in 2005 at the Convocation Hall event that we held for Paul Hellyer. And after the event, Paul and I spoke with Stanton, and Stanton said his farewells and everything. And then Stan came back to our house, and we were sitting around. It was time for Stanton to leave. He had this thing about renting a car. He had to rent a car to get to the airport. So I said, I'll drive. He said, no, I need to rent a car. So we went to a car rental agency, and he rented a car, or attempted to rent a car, and he sat down in this large Chrysler vehicle, a large Chrysler 2000, and he couldn't find the gear shift. And he said, am I supposed to drive this thing, or are they going to do this for me? So I said, Stan, get out of the car, and I'm taking you to the airport. Forget about the car. And so we left the car agency, and it was a really funny event because he was a very brave man in a lot of ways, but he had a very subtle nature to him that wasn't very complicated in many ways. So renting a car that he didn't know where the gear shift was, it was kind of a funny experience that we both went through. And when he got out of the car and we got his luggage back into my car, he said, "What was that all about? I don't understand what I was just missing there." So it was something that was kind of a landmark in my understanding of how complex this man was in many ways, but yet in other ways he was very humble in others. So he was a man of many talents. I should also tell you, when I interviewed him on Strange Days Indeed on CFRB here in Toronto with the late Errol Bruce Knapp, we did an interview of him several times, and he was the very first one. When I asked him the question, I said, Mr. Friedman, how important is this UFO issue? And he paused for a second. He said, well, and he sort of paused, hemmed and hawed. He said, well, Victor, the UFO issue is the cosmic Watergate. And that was the very first time that I ever heard that term used with reference to the UFO issue. And in fact, that is what this issue is all about. It is a groundbreaking issue, not only with respect to lights in the sky and the nuts and bolts issue of the UFO matter, but it is the nuts and bolts of the political aspects of what the UFO issue is all about. And I think Stanton was one of the first people to challenge the United States Air Force blatantly and openly about the political aspects of this matter. So he was not a man who stood back and suffered fools easily. He went after people who were skeptical. He went after people who were doubtful in a very brazen kind of way. So there was a very humble edge to Stanton in some ways, but there was also this very, very incisive manner that he had, because he needed to find out, and he needed to know, and he wanted other people to know what this issue meant politically to all of us.
Victor, I want to ask you one quick thing before I get to other people on our panel. Stanton was North American. We claim him up here as being Canadian because he's a Canadian citizen. He's rock solid in the United States because that's where he was born and raised and educated and did a lot of his lifetime's work. It's very rare we have somebody that transcends the 49th parallel in North America, but he really was a lover of everything to do with ufology on both sides of the border.
Yeah, he was an internationalist in a lot of ways, David. He had a way of transcending borders, and I think that was sort of evident in his decision to move to Canada from the United States and obtain Canadian citizenship. And I think that he had this method of getting through to people internationally. And that was one of the things that he did very well. I'm not sure of the exact number of international countries that he spoke in. I know he spoke in Australia, in the European theater, many, many times. So he had a way of transcending, and he was one of the first to do it, to go constantly to different countries, be it in person or on radio, to talk about the UFO issue. And as a Canadian, he was a frontier breaker in ensuring that this issue became not just an issue for those of us within ufology, but he made sure that he tried to make sure that this issue came forward to people globally. And I think that's the essence of what the UFO issue is all about. This is not an issue that is a border-driven issue. This is an issue that it transcends the global community. It speaks to the entire human family about the situation that we are in being engaged by off-world civilizations. And we have to thank Stanton Friedman for breaking down those borders to ensure that we in the UFO community, in the research community, understand that this is a global issue. This has nothing to do with countries. This has everything to do with the planet and the human family. And Stanton must be congratulated and held in high regard with respect to his global attitude towards the UFO issue.
Tom Whitmore from MUFON, I bring you in here now. In regards to the way Stanton really transcended both sides of the border and really made it an international issue, how did that help MUFON with the fact that he was so well known everywhere in the field of ufology and being a supporter of your group that it had to have rubbed off to have somebody of his stature, of his research, really appreciating the hard work that MUFON was doing?
Well, and I can't tell you how much we appreciated that. And I think one of the truly great things about Stanton Friedman was his accessibility. In some ways, he was almost like the St. Paul of ufology. He was spreading the message everywhere. He was always available to UFO groups for presentations. And, as I said, he spoke at even just a couple of months ago, he took a phone call from our local UFO group, MUFON group here in San Antonio, and spoke with us on the telephone. So he was just so accessible, and I think he's probably done as much as anyone's person to inform and educate the public about the UFO phenomenon. And he was at it long before there was ever an internet, as we all know. And MUFON has been an international organization, and we have had contacts in other countries in Europe and in South America. And Stanton Friedman was very important in communicating both the basics and some of the more advanced concepts in ufology, not only in the United States, but in Canada and all around the world.
Steve Bassett, you were somebody with the congressional hearings that really pushed the envelope on getting those in D.C. to open up their eyes a little bit towards ufology. And in that, obviously, Stanton would play a vital role in speaking at the congressional hearings and being a part of what you were trying to do, as well as others, to bring that message out. Politically speaking, what kind of clout did Stanton have?
Stan had the history of being part of the 68 hearing in front of the House Aeronautics Committee, and that is history and very important. But without question, if any congressional hearings had been held, he would have been part of them. Getting those hearings was difficult. The political situation in America has been really slowly decaying since 1968. And the ability to get those hearings, it simply didn't materialize. Efforts were made on a number of occasions. I know about 4 or 5 attempts. But the United States Congress has sort of lost its way. The closest we could get to hearings was the citizen hearing. That's why I went to such great lengths to have that. And by the way, the DVD record of that is obviously still available and it's not going anywhere. And so that is the citizen hearing. And it serves as a model for members of Congress to consider as we move towards the real hearings, which will eventually come. But probably, to be honest, not until after disclosure. And then they'll follow themselves, get hearings. But I want to add a couple of add-ons to what some other people have said. Referring to Charles, Michael, referring to Michael. Stan had that incident a while back where he choked. In 2007, at the 60th anniversary of MUFON, I attended and Stanton was to speak as well, but he arrived a little late. And what we found out was that Stan had been driving down to the Toronto airport from his house in the remotest part of Canada. And he speaks and travels all the time, and he's tired, and he fell asleep at his car, the wheel of his car, and his car just drove off the freeway. But fortunately for Stan, it was at one of those areas which was clear, there was no obstacles, but it was a big slope, and so the car drives off the freeway, down the slope, flips over on its top, and skids to a stop. And Stan, of course, had a seatbelt on, and he's kind of hanging in there, and eventually people came, they got him out, and he was a little banged up, but not too much. And so he somehow got a ride to the airport and came to Roswell and gave his presentation. I always liked that. So that was one thing I wanted to follow up on. Another thing I wanted to follow up on was, you talk about Stan's gone, who's going to replace him? There'll never be another Stan Friedman. But this field has kept together because someone always replaces who is left, whether it's Keogh or whether it's Hynek, whether it's Roger Lear or John Mack, and now Stan's gone. And I'll be honest with you, if there's one person out there that, to me, is worthy of replacing Stan, because not only what he's done, but there's a lot more he's going to do, and that would be Richard Dolan, in my view. The other thing I want to add is that, little humor, Stan I just got reminded of this by a friend of mine, Joe Bookman. Stan had a kind of a standard thing he did for the mic check. So, he give all these lectures, right? And so they want to do a mic check. So they'd say, Stan, say something in the mic. And his standard thing was, Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. And everywhere that Mary went, she saw a UFO. And that was Stan's mic check. And then one last thing. It is my understanding that I believe MUFON TV is going to very soon run some special tribute video on MUFON TV. So look for that.
Good for them. Michael, I'm not ignoring you, but I want to get to your client, Peter Davenport, here for a second. Peter, did it ever matter to you that Stanton, in all of his years of research, claimed that he had never seen a UFO?
Isn't that an interesting facet to his character? But it speaks to a greater issue, and that is his honesty. I was just sitting here writing down a few aspects of him that I think are superlative. One, he was well-informed. He was as well-informed as anybody in the field. You couldn't raise a subject in ufology without his being able to address it in an intelligent fashion. Number two, he was diplomatic. That's made evident by his dinner with Phil Klass, the celebrated arch rival to all of us, of course, the skeptic, the aggressive skeptic. And the third characteristic of Stan's character, for which I commended him, diplomat though he was, he did not suffer fools, and he was outspoken. And I think all of those combined to suggest that if we had ever needed an ambassador from the planet Earth to interface with other civilizations, I think Stan Friedman probably most likely would have come out on the top of the heap. He would have been the person chosen to do that. But he was a remarkable guy. I always reveled being in his company. One of the rare occasions when I'm inclined just to close my mouth and sit and listen to him, because everything he said was like words from high on Delphi, from Delphi. And I miss him already, just one day after his passing, but somehow somebody will come forward to fill that role, I suspect. I think Richard Dolan is a good suggestion.
I think Richard Dolan is a good one as well. Michael W. Hall, I'll bring you in here. With Stanton, I mean, I'm not sure if you ever got a chance to meet him or talk with him, but you being such a studious researcher of the field of ufology, in your opinion, how big of a hole is this to fill And is Richard Dolan the guy to fill those shoes, or is it going to take a plethora of people in order to pick up that leg of the research that is now gone?
Well, it is. It's going to take. It's going to be taking Richard Dolan. It's going to be taking Peter Davenport, Grant Cameron. A lot of folks will be stepping up to the plate now, following his lead, obviously. And one of the interesting things that I remembered about Stanton Friedman in my time that I got to meet him was that he was not one of those people that would talk down to you, no matter who you were. He had that personality that would kind of bring out the best in you as well. He had a very good interest in human beings and wanted to know what you were thinking, and didn't kind of talk down to you, you know, as if he knew all the answers and you didn't. But on the flip side of the coin, if you got him in a debate, I don't know anyone who could have been a better debater of any subject that you can think of, let alone ufology, than Stanton Friedman. Because I tell you what, when he goes into the battle, he is armed with, as Peter said, all the information in the world, and probably has that eidetic memory as well. I swear, the people that are at the top of their game in this field, Peter Davenport being one, and Grant Cameron also, have this kind of memory that is just photographic. They can bring to the task the correct data for the correct argument, and they can be very convincing when they give it to you there. So I'm really excited to see not only the people that have been in ufology a long time, but I'm waiting to see some of these, what they call young guns, coming out of the woodwork, that have the ability to dig down deep and find the resources and the data that other people have missed. Because as Grant Cameron has said for many, many years, that if we all put on the table what we know, what we've come across, and just decide to end this thing, it would be over. So I'm looking forward to that.
Chris Rutkowski, we got about a minute to go here, and then I want to continue with you after this. Out of all those intimate conversations that you had about the field of ufology, we hear all the good things about Stanton, but what really maybe pressed his buttons about this field of research?
Oh, wow. There's a show in itself. I think Peter mentioned that he didn't suffer fools gladly, and I was going through my files today, just looking back on my correspondence with him, and he had sent me a very large folder full of the debate between him and Carl Sagan. And the exchange between the two of them, not on email, of course, but on actual letters, showed that he was very, very passionate, and he was not that he was trying to convince Carl of one thing or another, but he was just determined to try and get his message across. And he would do that with so many people, like we mentioned Phil Klass and a few others. He would be dogged in his pursuit of trying to get to the truth and trying to get to the bottom of whatever it was he was interested in.
Right, Chris, I'm going to continue that with you and the rest of the panel. Michael W. Hall, Stephen Bassett, Victor Viggiani, Peter Davenport, and Tom Whitmore. We're paying tribute tonight to Stanton Friedman. Stay tuned for Hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio right after this.
Hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Canada's largest UFO conference is ready to roll in Toronto this September 21st and 22nd at the Alien Cosmic Expo. This year is about the experience. Listen to the stories of Dave Scott, Travis Walton, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacy, Richard Dolan, Leslie Mitchell-Clark, and more. Get your tickets now at aliencosmicexpo.com. Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today. At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. Tomorrow night on the show, Mike Morin and Morgan Knudsen are back with Ghosts of the Great White North, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates, KDNF AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas, KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California, WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, and UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans. On the digital side, hi to everyone listening in on Revolution Radio and Deep Talk Radio. Remember, all of our archives are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Menascius. Menascius is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam has set the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, currently under construction, but we're making it bigger and better all for you. Give it about a week, and we'll be up and running. We are doing a Stanton Friedman tribute show tonight on Spaced Out Radio after the legendary ufologist passed away yesterday at the age of 84 in Toronto, Ontario. Joining us tonight is Chris Rutkowski, Canadian UFO researcher and author, Michael W. Hall from UFO I-Team, Stephen Bassett from Paradigm Research Group, Victor Viggiani from Zealand Communications, Tom Whitmore from MUFON, and we've had to say goodnight to Peter Davenport tonight. He had other plans, visiting with family. He wanted to stop in and give his little bit of a tribute there, so we thank him for jumping on by. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. And Chris, right before the break, we were kind of talking about, what upset Stanton's apple cart when it came to ufology. And you mentioned the written hand letter debate with Carl Sagan, but he also got into it with Seth Shostak, as well as He was very vocal against the Bob Lazar story. He wasn't afraid to take on some of these big stories of people who were trying to, I don't want to say make a mockery of the field of ufology, but who wanted to present different opinions that maybe at times were a little outlandish or out of touch with what the research showed.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of Stan's great catchphrases was, don't bother me with the facts. I've already made up my mind. And whenever he encountered somebody who was in a position of debating him or just plain out disagreeing him for whatever reason, he would say that because very often he would be in a situation where somebody would simply not know what they were talking about. He made a point of asking people at his lectures how many had read Blue Book 14, how many had read the congressional hearings, how many had read, a series of important works on the subject, and by and large, nobody had. And the point was that how can you engage in reasonable discourse in this subject without really having the facts? And he was really troubled by the fact that scientists, who really should know better when it comes to their fields of interest. I mean, you wouldn't find a chemist, for example, getting into a debate with somebody without knowing the periodic table or some of the basic works on the subject. And yet he would encounter physicists and chemists and sociologists and who knows what, just dismissing the UFO subject without having read any of the scientific literature, without having read any of the relevant documentation, certainly not investigating any cases. He was really astounded at the fact that here were people who in any other field couldn't possibly engage in such discourse and would not even think about publishing papers, and yet here they were doing it. So this was something that really irritated Stan, and he made it very obvious when he was doing his presentations and getting into some pretty decent flame wars occasionally.
Tom, what's your thoughts on that, in the way he stood up for the field of ufology with what he felt was going against a lot of the norms that his research has showed, namely Bob Lazar, Carl Sagan, why can't I say his name? Shostak from SETI Research?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you're asking what really pushed his buttons the most, and I think it was the debunkers, like you're saying. He liked to call them noisy negativists. And, he took on the Phil Klasses and the Seth Shostaks and the Carl Sagans and the Michael Shermers. And it's all been said before in this program. He was armed with facts, and he was thoroughly familiar with the data that would support his argument. And he was particularly incensed that people would make these statements against the possibility of flying saucers and UFOs being a real, true phenomenon when they had no facts to back them up other than their own scientific prejudices. I call it the Einstein barrier myself, and the rationale being that you can't exceed the speed of light and stars are so far apart that you can't possibly get here. So there was this a priori assumption from scientists that UFOs couldn't be real, and parties from other places, whether they be other dimensions or other planets, couldn't be coming here. And it was this, like we said before, don't confuse me with the facts. My mind is already made up. And he was particularly incensed by that. And at just about any talk that you would attend that he was involved in, you would hear about that very, very much.
Did it bother you, Tom, that he had never seen a UFO?
No, not at all. I've never seen a UFO, but growing up in the 50s and 60s and 70s, with UFOs being really prominently featured in the mainstream media at that time. And reading UFO literature myself, the number of reports and the stories and the data, et cetera, it's enough to convince me. And I haven't seen a UFO myself, and I think it was the same with him. With the data and the information that was available to him and the in-depth research and investigation that he did, he was solidly in the column of supporting the possibilities of the UFO phenomena.
Victor Viggiani, I want to get you in on this because being somebody that transcended the borders on both sides, do you believe that he was able to really, really push the buttons to move ufology forward in Canada as much as he was able to in the United States?
Well, yeah, I think that, going back to what I said earlier, David, about Stanton was not a person who necessarily, I'll reiterate it again, who thought of the UFO issue as a country issue or a border segmented issue. He looked at it as a global issue, and he made many strides to do that. And I think a couple of the things that I can point out is he took on the United States Air Force in a big way. He made some statements to the United States Air Force and said, listen, you guys got to stop pretending that this issue is something of a non-issue, especially by using the excuse that it's not a threat to national security. He took on the United States Air Force, and he was one of the first ones to do it. And he made no mistake about it. He did not apologize for it, and he refused to take a back seat to some of the so-called, higher levels of governance and their haughty position in being able to tell people that this issue was not real, and he took them on broadside, and he had no fear in doing this whatsoever because simply he knew the facts of the situation. And in addition to that, he was one of the first people who came forward here in Canada on mainstream media. And there was a program, I'm not sure if all of our listeners are aware of this or the people that are speaking with us right now. The CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, has been around a long time in Canada, and it is a very pervasive and all-encompassing media up here in Canada. It goes coast to coast every single night in many different ways. And there was a program called As It Happens, and it's on every night at 6 o'clock, and it's been on for many years, well over 3 decades. And Stanton Friedman and the original host of As It Happens, Barbara Frum, had many different interactions and interviews about the UFO issue. And it wasn't something that Barbara Frum did to as a believer. She just wanted someone who had the knowledge, who had the scientific and practical background of Stanton Friedman, and that's why she interviewed Stanton many times on As It Happens, and he set the benchmark, as far as I'm concerned, up here in Canada, of getting through getting through to the mainstream media to make sure that the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation took this seriously. And I might add that just recently, the CBC did a piece on Stanton just today on one of its internet websites describing the work of Stanton. So he was a major factor early on, way before I ever got involved in mainstream media, to make sure that the Canadians were well aware of the fact that UFOs are real and that we were in fact being engaged by off-world civilization. So that in and of itself sort of was an icebreaker for everybody up here in Canada. So I feel it's a major thrust that we have to continue to perpetuate up here in Canada, because our media is much more amorphous up here in Canada than the controlled media in the United States. And I think if anything is going to happen with respect to some form of disclosure, it could very well come through the Canadian media, and we have to thank Stanton Friedman for that.
Gentlemen, I'm going to ask each and every one of you, if you can, turn your sound down in the back. We're getting a little bit of echo, if you don't mind, and I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from. But Stephen Bassett, I want to get your opinion on this in regards to the way that Stanton was able to transcend what was going on politically with the subject of UFOs. Do you feel that Stanton's message was being heard by facets of both the Canadian and the United States government regarding UFOs and the fact that we needed to start taking this a little more seriously?
Oh, that's a tough question. I believe that the Canadian government and the United States government is well aware of the people in the field and what they're doing. They're well aware of what Stan was doing. So they heard it. The issue is that they don't acknowledge that they've heard it. In other words, we've all worked in a very strange environment, what I call the truth embargo. It's not a cover-up, it's an embargo. And the government has a position that the ETs aren't here, and there's nothing to talk about. Their position is they are here, and there's plenty to talk about. So it's hard to know what effect you're having. The best measure I have is how the media is handling it. And, of course, I track all the media. I've got over nearly 11,000 articles linked on my website right now. So there's been tons of coverage. And we know that that's happening, and we can kind of measure our success. But when it comes to what the government thinks, we haven't been able to do it, except, of course, that we had the To the Stars Academy emerge out of the military intelligence complex as part of an orchestrated deal. And that started, of course, was launched on October the 11th of 2017. So in a sense, the To the Stars Academy and the group that came together and go public is the government's response to Stan Friedman and John Mack and Alan Hynek and Richard Dolan and Grant Cameron and Victor Viggiani and Davenport and everybody else. Basically, we're heading toward the finish line. If it wasn't for the political chaos going on, we'd already be across the finish line. But history will out. But we're getting there. So he's after disclosure, he's going to be one of the key people getting laudits all over the world. Movies will be made. He'll be a character in some movies. We should already start putting out to your listeners who do they think should play Stan in the movie. Eventually, he'll be in, right? So I'm optimistic that we have been heard, and I'm optimistic that we're going to see resolution. Now, I want to clarify a couple of things, though, that have come up.
Sure.
First, Stan definitely did not. Stan clearly had issues with the skeptics and the hard skeptics we call skeptic bunkers, like Shostak, like Sagan, unfortunately, and some others. Bob Lazar is a different category. He challenged the case. In other words, he had different view about a particular case. Bob is not a skeptic, and I would definitely want to put Bob Lazar in the same category as Shostak. And he disagreed. And it's also the case that there were a lot of pretty strong researchers that disagreed with Stanton about the MJ-12 document. But what's very important is that it was all very civil. Stanton made his points about Bob. Others made their point about the MJ-12. Stanton disagreed. And there was back and forth to some degree, but it was all civil and intelligent debate and discussion, which God knows we need more of that. And the other thing I want to clarify is that Stan, in the last 20 years of, going back a good ways, maybe 10, 12, 50 years, I've heard a lot of Stan's lectures. Stan was saying absolutely there is an extraterrestrial presence. He eventually went way past UFOs are real. He was saying there is an extraterrestrial presence, period. Which is what Bob Bigelow said on 60 Minutes in May of 2017. But Stan was saying that years before Bob Bigelow said it. However, I must admit that Bigelow saying that on 60 Minutes was a big damn deal. And if it wasn't for the political mess we're in right now, Stanton should have had 20 television outfits calling him up to say, gee, Bob Bigelow just said the ETs are here. What do you think about that, Stan? But that didn't happen. I wanted to mention that. Then lastly, and I'm going to have to leave you fellows because I've got a thing I'm doing here too, is that, and this springs from something he said in the break. All right, Stan's left us. Another era is passing. We live in a new time, new era, new rules, new tools, new everything. And the internet is the most powerful tool ever. And the young people are the masters of the internet. And so I embrace it a lot. I have 6 Facebook pages. I have a Twitter account. The Twitter account particularly is interesting. You can say right now with some confidence that a person is almost as powerful as their Twitter followers. So if you've got 500 Twitter followers, okay. But if you've got 500,000, that's a lot bigger. And if you've got 5 million, that's huge. And so I have a modest 16,000. I'm going to do something. It's a little project. And I got this from you guys during the break. I'm going to compile a list of all the people in the field who have Twitter accounts and their Twitter followers, and I'm going to post it. And I'm basically going to say, guys, everyone out there, if you're not following that person, you're following this one, go follow all of them and spread the word. Do some shares. Let's see if we can build up the total collective Twitter power of this field. Because when I put out a post now, even with a modest 16,000, I get a lot of responses and feedback. And I get 9, 10, 15,000 impressions a day. So that's power. Now, if you're a rock star and you've got 20 million followers, you can open up a clothing company and make $5 million in a year or two. I mean, this is how things are done now. It's a Twitter universe. We just live in it. And so I'm going to do this project and see if we can expand the Twitter following. And I encourage anybody in the field that's not on Twitter, get on it. It's much more powerful in terms of interacting directly with issues on Facebook by magnitudes. Not only in the ability to reach people, but in how you follow people. In other words, you can select exactly the kind of information you want, the particular news outlets you want, the people you like, and you follow them, and that's what you get on your feed. Nothing else. Just that. So you can literally tailor-make your Twitter feed by who you follow. And if you choose well, you're going to get a lot of great information. And so I'm going to do that project. You'll see it probably within about 2 days. It's your fault. It's all you guys' fault. And by the way, don't hesitate to follow me on Twitter.
I just did. I'll wait for that follow back.
No, I will follow you back.
I think Steve is really onto something here because it is amazing how Twitter has become a geometric tool for engaging people. Unlike Facebook, which I feel in a lot of ways is a very one-dimensional way of communication, and it's involved in, I guess, some...
Oh, somebody backing up?
I'm not sure what that is.
Sorry, it's me. Don't worry about it. I'll stop it.
Yeah, no, I just want to say how clear sometimes Twitter is in the way it provides the expansion of information. I just want to make that point. Unlike Facebook.
I would agree with you there, my friend.
Facebook is not as useful. Facebook is not as useful, and it's got problems. It has its place, but it's gone to some places and that have gotten a little strained. Twitter, by and large, is still a pretty clean, straightforward way to interact, and you have more control of what you get and who you send to.
Well, I'm going to be shoveling more. I was just saying, I'm going to be shoveling more coal into my MySpace account, I think, is the solution.
On that note, I'm going to get you guys to hold on because we're going to go to break at the bottom of the hour here. We're going to say goodbye to Stephen Bassett. He's got other things he has to take care of because he's a wanted man for tonight because of the tributes to Stanton Friedman. But we are going to continue with our Stanton Friedman tribute on Spaced Out Radio right after this.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thorne, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today. Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Past the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Hope you're enjoying the ride on the Stanton Friedman tribute tonight. We've had to say goodnight to Stephen Bassett and Chris Rutkowski, who have other projects they got to work on. Chris Rutkowski has to be up at 2:30 in the morning, so that way he could be on the CBC by 3 a.m. for a Stanton Friedman tribute interview that they are going to be doing. So that is national-wide across Canada. So thank you, Chris, for joining us. We still have Michael W. Hall, Victor Viggiani, and Tom Whitmore with us tonight as we continue our Stanton Friedman tribute tonight. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us and continuing this talk in regards to ufology. Tom, I want to ask you a question here, because as we move forward and as the field of ufologists gets younger, it gets a little bit more business-like. It seems UFOs, has become real big business over the last year and a half here. Yet somebody like Stanton or Peter Davenport or other people along those lines who've been researching for decades, I think of Kathleen Marden, Melinda Leslie, people like that. How has this changed the game? And are we able to gain that research that we so desperately want from people, knowing now that people are starting to understand that this is becoming a business. This is becoming a television entity. This is becoming, well, if you look at To the Stars, they are a business. Are we changing for the good in ufology now?
Well, like anything else in life, Dave, I think that there are some good things about this situation, and there are criticisms of it. If you go back in ufology back into the 80s and the 70s and the 60s, ufology was in the garage. MUFON was run out of Walt Anderson's garage in Seguin, Texas. It was a very nice garage. It was well ordered. It was organized. He had everything in file cabinets, and he had a beautiful UFO library in there. But everything was hard copy. Now we have the internet, and we have social media, and the world has changed so much that it's, in some ways, it's almost hard to predict what direction ufology will really take. Personally, I think it's becoming much more decentralized. It's like Thomas Friedman said in his book, The World is Flat. It's being much more democratized. And we've mentioned this on the show tonight about how anyone can start a podcast or a blog, a video on YouTube. And there are a lot of people on social media now that are trying to make a living doing that, getting as many followers as they can on YouTube and so on and so forth. So in some ways, it's becoming more of a business on an individual level. And then on another level, you have, I don't know if it's big business, but it's bigger business in the media and entertainment industry. Now, I will say this, as a board member of MUFON and being involved in the organization as long as I have, that we had an ambition and a goal to take MUFON out of the garage. And at this point, we're at what I would call a small business level. And the Stars Academy is really a completely different situation. They're a public service corporation. They're public. They file reports and statements with the SEC. They solicit investments. I've heard through the grapevine that they're making attempts to raise significant amounts of money. So those are two organizations that are completely on two different levels. And as far as ufology being a business and some of the criticism that I've heard, and some of it I've taken to heart personally, Dave, but let me tell you this. If scientists didn't have government funding, and if they didn't have university funding, and if they didn't have private funding, they'd be selling T-shirts too.
That's a very good point. Very good point. You have to try and make it up where you can. But with Stanton, he remained a lone wolf. As much as he supported people like MUFON or people like Peter Davenport or everybody like that, he was a fan of ufology. He wasn't about joining groups. He wasn't about trying to one-up others. Did you notice that, Michael? Let me bring you back in here.
Yeah, the whole issue with having to deal with the future, I think, is something that Stan was really good at. You know, he was always thinking ahead on what's going to happen when these truths come out. I just wished that he was alive at this point, in probably the very near future, when the proof comes out about Roswell, New Mexico. I really think that that's going to be something that will vindicate Stanton and many of the things that he had been talking about for years and years with all the research that he's done. So, he always had in the back of his mind, when disclosure happens, we're beyond that already, so let's plan for it, kind of a thing. So it is a fascinating thing when an icon like Stanton Friedman passes, because we kind of use that as a benchmark, I believe. I think we will use this as a benchmark because from what I can gather, things are going to be happening very quickly here. And maybe we can use what he's done in his life as a springboard to get this thing, further down the road.
Well, I always wonder about this question, and I've asked Grant Cameron this on the air. I'll ask you gentlemen as well, because when Jim Mars passed away, it left a big hole. And the reason why I say that is because I worry about the research, the information, the sources that were cultivated during Jim's career and now Stanton's career, of the information that didn't make it public, those little private, off-the-record conversations that weren't supposed to go anywhere. And I really hope that information isn't lost. Victor, that's always an issue when somebody like this passes away. But, I mean, let's face it, Stanton was a guy of his word. And if somebody said, you know what, I'm going to tell you this off the record, you can make notes, but don't ever share it publicly, I'm wondering how much of that information is being stored in his own mini museum at his home, and what happens to those sources now. Do you wonder about that?
Well, you're exactly right, David. You raise a really good point, and it comes back to several things that I've run into over the past, I'd say, at least 25 years, if not longer. And in doing the radio program that I did with Errol Bruce Knapp, were you familiar with Errol's work on Strange Days Indeed? Yeah.
A little bit, yes.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that Errol had a compendium of information probably as big or bigger than anyone that I know, including possibly even Stanton. Now, that's saying a lot, but Errol goes back many, many years with his research, and he wasn't one to send it out all over the place. He was a bit of a pack rat in that way. So with respect to the kinds of research that has been going on over the past 60 or 70 years since this issue's come forward, you've got a number of people, sort of the old traditionalists, who have stored this information, and it's all there, much like the garage metaphor that I think was Tom that used earlier about MUFON. Now it's all digital, and in using that information, people who are not aware of what this issue is all about, they either go forward with listening to the kinds of discourse that we're talking about right now and all the new information that's bursting out onto the internet, or they can go back in time and look at some of the research that is available through all of the dogged researchers that have done this over the past 50 or 60 years. And that's a big task, and there's not a lot of people right now who have the the intellectual acuity to go back and jump into that kind of information, that kind of research. So in a way, I'm not going to say that it's lost. It's an archive that only the really intrepid will go into, and that to me is in a way it's a bit of a It's a bit of a disappointment, but then again, you have to look on the other side of that coin. All this new information is coming out, to the Stars Academy and the stuff that Steve Bassett has done over the past 10 years, or even earlier than that. There's a lot of new information and there's a lot of old information, and I think that the melding of the two will allow those who are really, really interested, and I'm including mainstream media here, that they'll have to get into it very, very soon in order for them to create their own foundational knowledge. Because once this stuff comes out, especially with respect to mainstream media, and I'm talking about all mainstream media internationally, BBC, European radio, European TV, American radio and television, and all of that, these people have no idea what has gone on in the past. And some of the researchers that they have, or the journalists that they've employed, they don't have the time or even the journalistic inquisitiveness to go back into all this research. So we have to build the future for them. And by Stanton doing what he did in bringing this forward, I think that they have information of the now, information of the present. So no longer are we in a position. It's you know what it's like, David? It's like getting a jigsaw puzzle. You remember the old jigsaw puzzle?
Yes.
You get them in a box, remember? Okay, and you had this nice picture on the front of the box. Okay? Mm-hmm. Right now what's happening is we're delivering this information to mainstream media, and it's our fault because we're not doing a very good job of it at this point. We're delivering this information to the mainstream media in a jigsaw puzzle box with no picture on it.
Very true.
You know what I mean?
True.
There's a whole bunch of pieces in the box, but there's no picture on the front of the box to really help the mainstream media put the pieces of the puzzle together. And so that's what we have to do. We have to create a bigger picture, and that's where I think we have to depend on some of the old research or some of the traditional research in addition to the new stuff that's coming out. And if we don't do that in a very, very circuitous and a very accurate way, mainstream media is never going to pick up on this stuff. And that's one of the things that I think we learned from Stanton. Stanton had a way of creating the big picture for everybody. And he did it so very, very well in a traditional way, and also too to speak to some of the younger people that are moving into this whole issue. So I mean, he's really kind of provided us with a mechanism for translating this information to the mainstream media so that they can make sense of it. And you knock mainstream media as much as you want in terms of being controlled, et cetera, but they are still hungry for stories. And if we portray the right picture on that jigsaw puzzle box, they will buy into it. And that's one of the things that I really feel firmly that we have to do. I was in Rochester, New York last week and did a presentation to Richard Dolan's group. He has a group, a very influential group down in Rochester, and we spent well over 2 hours talking about this information after my presentation. And they felt very strongly about that, too, that we're not providing a larger context for the mainstream media to really buy into this stuff. And once we do that, it'll be a lot easier for them, for MSNBC, for CBS and ABC, to really plug into this issue and break the bonds of Steve Bassett's metaphor of the truth embargo, to say something is going on in our skies and we need to know about it.
Mm-hmm. Tom, I want to bring you in here for a quick second, because in regards to those papers and those reports and those novels and the information, the hard drives, the old Rolodexes that are probably still in there, Stanton over the years really changed his stance from believing that UFOs could be out there to believing that aliens are already here, as we heard earlier in this show already stated. Do you believe, with everybody that he has talked to over the years, that maybe he got tipped off the record by saying, Stanton, this is very real. They are here. I can show you this, but you cannot go public with it? Because I could see that happening with a man of his stature. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's fascinating that you brought that up, Dave, because there was an instance, well, it's been asserted that during the 1980s that Bill Moore, in his researches and investigations and the things that he was involved in, that it's been asserted, and I'm not criticizing Stanton Friedman, but other people have claimed that Stanton Friedman and Bill Moore had come up with most of the names on the MJ-12 list before they ever received the MJ-12 documents. That's one thing. Another interesting point, and it may just be a coincidence, I'm not saying there's anything nefarious behind it, but Stanton Friedman tipped off Bill Moore and Jamie Chandray about documents that were being declassified in the National Archives. And on the other hand, Bill Moore and Jamie Chandray had been receiving these cryptic postcards in the mail, tipping them off on what to look for. So they go to the National Archives and they find, and the Cutler 20 memo is inserted in one of the boxes. So those are two interesting things. Now, Stanton Friedman has talked to so many people. He's interviewed so many witnesses. It seems almost inevitable that he would have been approached by someone with alleged inside information. And Stanton Friedman was not only outspoken, and he not only did not suffer fools, but he was also very discreet.
And the words off the record meant something to him. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, he was ethical, okay? He was ethical, and like it's been mentioned in this program earlier, he would disagree with others, but he would do it in a cordial, courteous, polite manner, even though you knew exactly where he stood on issues. But at the same time, I think he had received a lot of information that I think it's possible that he's received a lot of information that we don't know about.
That's a very good point. I just want to sort of expand upon it, because today, with exactly what you're saying, when people who receive that kind of information, what they do is they find, for lack of a better word, nefarious ways of getting it out there, or at least of expanding upon it in a less than discreet way. If in fact Stan was sort of in touch with outside or inside agencies or deep agencies or whatever you want to call it, he found a way to let the information out without being the sort of the indiscreet disclosure person. He had a way of just sort of letting it out there without saying that it was something, well, listen, this is really inside information. I don't want you to talk about it. He never did that. He in any of my conversations with Stan, it didn't matter what it was, he never said, well, I've got some information that you really need to know about, and I found it out from an absolutely impeccable source, but don't ever talk about it to anyone. He never ever said that to me. I don't know if he did that with other people, but he never said that to me. So he had a really kind of classy way of putting the information forward and letting you just sort of ruminate on it and do your own research. And I think that was a very important part of the ethical boundaries that he held with respect to inside information.
Yeah, and
Michael,
I'll tell you, several years.
Tom, sorry.
Several years ago, I was doing a lot of research on MJ12 on the internet, and I had a list of points and issues and questions that I was talking with people about, and I mentioned Stanton's accessibility, but he sat down with me eyeball to eyeball on 2 separate occasions at a symposium several years ago, and I asked him some very pointed questions, and his answers were, well, it doesn't matter because the MJ12 is real. So maybe he knows something we don't know.
He was like that with the Wilbert Smith document too. Yeah. If you notice on the bottom, the last page, there is a lot of handwritten notations from Mr. X or what happens to be, and Stanton's name is there. And how that document came out, it's not in any of the Canadian archives. The Library and Archives Canada has 9,500 files in it, and the Wilbert Smith document, to my knowledge, is not in that archive. So it's really interesting to find out, how he got a hold of that document, the Wilbert Smith document, and how it became made public, and the way it was made public. And Stanton never really, honked that horn loud and clear all the time. Meanwhile, if it was me, I would be all over it all the time. And so it's a real question mark in my own mind.
Gentlemen, we only got about 30 seconds before we have to go to break here at the top of the hour on Spaced Out Radio as we continue our Stanton Friedman tribute. Our panel so far is Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer. He brought in Peter Davenport in hour number 1. We have Victor Viggiani from Zealand Communications and Tom Whitmore from MUFON in the United States. We are doing a tribute to Stanton Friedman tonight, and I know the audience is loving this because I'm reading a lot of the comments on Twitter and on Facebook, Revolution Radio, and our Spreaker chat. And they're really appreciating the stories that you guys are sharing of the legend of Stanton Friedman. That is for sure. I'm very excited to have it continue here in hour number 3. And I hope all of you will stick with us as well, because it's going to be interesting. I got a lot of questions for you guys. We could go a long ways with this because I want to know what is going to happen with this paperwork. I realize that it's way too soon to ask that, but I really hope that it gets into some sort of archive where the public gets to see his work. More Spaced Out Radio with hour number 3 on the Stanton Friedman tribute coming up right after this. At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Come hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR, where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com, where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com, and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Canada's largest UFO conference is ready to roll in Toronto this September 21st and 22nd at the Alien Cosmic Expo. This year is about the experience. Listen to the stories of Dave Scott, Travis Walton, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacey, Richard Dolan, Leslie Mitchell-Clark, and more. Get your tickets now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
From the mile-high mountains of Colorado to all of you around the world, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I invite you to stick around spacedoutradio.com for Saturday and Sunday nights where I host Spaced Out Weekend. Let me take you on a wild ride of weird and strange topics, from ghosts and ETs to remote viewing, psychic phenomena, and so much more. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time on Spaced Out Weekend, where we own the night.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. Tomorrow night in the show, we get into Ghosts of the Great White North. Morgan Knudsen, Mike Morin will be with us starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Hi to our brand new affiliate, KDNF, AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas. Joining KDUN, AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, KZFX, 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California, WQEE 99.1 FM in Newnan, Georgia, and UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans. On the digital side, hi to everyone on Revolution Radio and Deep Talk Radio. Remember, all of our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Menacious. Menacious is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. Currently under construction. We're rebuilding it, making it bigger, better, all for you. It was your demand that caused that, so that's what we are up to right now. For the final time tonight, actually, we're going to go through we're going to skip the news tonight. So we're going to keep Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer, Victor Viggiani from Zealand Communications in Toronto, and Tom Whitmore from MUFON going the distance tonight on Spaced Out Radio in the Stanton Friedman tribute. We want to pay a respect to Chris Rutkowski, Steve Bassett, and Peter Davenport, who joined us earlier on in the show. Michael W. Hall, I want to start with you as a law professor. You're the professor of law around here, even though I'm titling you that. The paranormal lawyer, the judge, whatever we could call you here. Over the next few weeks and months, as we come to the realization that Stanton is no longer with us, and it's going to be a while because he was such an important part of what we all do, it's going to come down to his research. Thousands upon thousands of books, documents, notepads, hard drives, everything, phone numbers, probably, I don't know, some sort of alien technology sitting in a safe in his dungeon of an office, whatever it may be. What happens to all that paperwork? Do we hope that it's archived? Do we hope that somebody who has the right belief or the right understanding of the importance of that information to bring it to the public? What do you hope happens, and what could happen to that paperwork legally? Did we just lose Michael? Did Michael accidentally hang up? Look. Well, it looks like we're still... Oh, maybe we did lose him. No. It shows that he... Michael, did you accidentally hit mute on your phone? Well, while we're waiting for Michael, Tom, I'll ask you that question. You've ran businesses before. You know the legalities of a lot of this. Yeah, one sec, Mike. Tom, go ahead. Very interesting in regards to that. Michael W. Hall, we bring you back in here because we had a little bit of a Skype issue with you in regards to the legalities of everything that is going on with the paperwork, with everything that is happening with his now estate. Does this become a major legal matter, or do we hope that maybe he put it into some sort of archive? Because I know Grant Cameron has talked about that. What do you think happens to that paperwork? Because we don't want it to go the way of Jim Mars, where it just disappeared. Those sources disappeared. Everything just went to the wayside, and hopefully it doesn't go in the trash can.
Yeah, that is the always the real mystery when it comes to transferring an estate and information and documentation from someone's lifetime during the probate or administration of their estate, and whether the people that are involved in that, his executors, successor trustees, whatever, are even interested in that. Because I know sometimes you find maybe even family members of the decedent they don't even know what they might have available. But I just have the feeling, as you know, Dave, from the past appearances that I've made on your show, is that I have actually, for my own clients, created a disclosure trust mechanism for some people who are government insiders and whistleblowers who want to disclose secrets, but they don't want to do it during their lifetime. So they do it in a document like a trust, naming a successor trustee to distribute the information. I would not be surprised to find out that Stanton Friedman, with all of his long lifetime worth of information and contacts and potentially even artifacts, like you were mentioning, that he might have thought ahead and decided to disclose some of this stuff, either sometime in the future or hopefully very shortly after his passing. So that's what I would be interested in hearing about, maybe the probate or transfer of his estate. And by the way, if he had a will, in the state of Washington anyway, that will becomes a public knowledge when it's filed at the courthouse in the county that they pass away in. So I'm wondering if his estate is going to be made public. That would be very interesting to start with right there.
It's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out. Now, I'm just wondering, in regards to this, Victor, do you know a little bit about how the Canadian law works with that?
Well, to be really honest with you, I know the way probate works in financial situations, and probate is with respect to finances is a very specific kind of conduit through which the government gets access to whatever financial funds people have. And if people file certain things through probate, the government gets piece of the action. If they do things within a legal mechanism without probate, that information remains with the family exclusively. So there are ways of avoiding probate. In other words, allowing the government to have access to the information and keeping the information, financial information, within the family structure of the estate. Now, how that relates to the kind of information we're talking about, that's another question. What I have done is I have my own personal lawyer, and I've instructed him, and I keep him updated with all of the information that I have. I have a very close friend who I have imparted all of this information to. He's not a family member, but I've entrusted him with this information as my quote-unquote executor of all of the data that I have. And the other part of that data is filed with my lawyer, so it's in two places. So with the instructions with my lawyer that if anything does happen to me personally, either I am, taken into custody or pass away, that information will remain in trust with my lawyer and with my close personal friend, and they'll have to work out how the information is distributed from there. Not that I have anything close to what Stanton may have, or any someone like Jim Mars, but I've taken my own personal action to protect the information that I have according to the probate laws here in Canada.
Will either of you three be watching this situation over the next couple of months to year or two to see what happens with his information? Because I can see a lot of people wanting to get their hands on it, from people in ufology to maybe members of the government, to see whom Stanton was dealing with. I just really hope that this becomes public. I hope he maybe put it towards a university where they can show it off on the archives or whatever it may be. But is it important for you guys, starting with you, Tom, to be able to watch this situation to see what happens to that information?
Well, Dave, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that is something we really should be concerned about. And there are several researchers out there that I can think of off the top of my head. For example, Linda Howe has, I'm sure, a tremendous amount of material. But yes, I'm very concerned about that, and strange things can happen. For example, if you take APRO was an organization that did excellent investigative work, and the files ended up in a place that nobody can get to, into private hands. And these kinds of things can happen if provisions and plans aren't made, if arrangements aren't made ahead of time. There's also been a situation with Leonard Stringfield's files. Now, Leonard Stringfield absolutely guaranteed confidentiality to his witnesses, and we are not able to get to it because the family will not release his files. So, these kinds of things can happen, and it's not simply, I don't think, a matter of releasing the files to some archive or another, because it's possible that Stanton Friedman had made assurances to certain witnesses of confidentiality. Redactions may need to be made. And so if the files were turned over, say, to a university or some other archive, then I would think either volunteer or professional archivists would need to go through and redact any material that needs to be dealt with that way. So I don't think it's a simple situation, and it's possible that the family may or may not be aware of what's in there, and I think almost anything could happen.
That's the danger of it. I mean, and how do you split it up? If they did leave it to a university or two, how do you even go about splitting it up, considering he may have wanted his alma mater at the University of Chicago to get some, his new home in Fredericton and the University of New Brunswick? He may want it to go there. Is it just a matter of hoping? Are we all just kind of crossing our fingers at this point, trying to be patient? Because, well, let's face it, we just found out about his passing today when he passed away yesterday at the airport in Toronto. I mean, this is something big, because literally we're talking, what, over the years, maybe a couple million pieces of paper that are lying around that haven't been archived on computer yet. That's a big job and a big task, Victor.
Yeah, no, I think you raise a very good point. I guess the closest one that I can think of is Kathleen Marzin, and she has written books with Stanton. And I mean, I don't want to in any way, shape, or form put Kathleen on the spot here, but with the kind of intense research that would have had to happen between the two of them in writing the books that they did, especially with respect to the abduction phenomena and the other stuff that they may have shared together. Unless there's one other person within the Friedman family that has sort of an executor capacity with respect to his information, I think Kathleen might be the one that could answer some of those questions if she's willing to do so. And whatever steps need to be taken to deal with how that information is distributed or housed or archived, I think Kathleen may be the one to, down the road after the dust has settled, to maybe deal with that issue in a public or private manner. So that I think needs to be addressed, but right now may not be the time to do it because of the sensitivity of his passing, and I think some time has to elapse before we address that issue.
I did try, and I did reach out to Kathleen Marden today to try and bring her on the show. She never responded. I didn't really blame her for that. We also tried to get a hold of Richard and Tracy Dolan to come on the show, and they were busy with their own tributes that they were doing and couldn't do it. So but they did pass the condolences on through Spaced Out Radio, as did Grant Cameron tonight. So it is important that the entire field of ufology, Michael, really seemed to lose that father figure. I guess that's probably one of the best ways to put it. We lost Dad. We lost Grandpa, great-grandpa in this field. And I don't say that facetiously. I mean that with all due respect to Stanton Friedman.
Yes, that's kind of a synopsis of a whole lot of entities that we all revere for sure. The grandfather figure, the father figure, the colleague, the fighter who was always on the edge when he would present his material. I was always amazed how many times you see Stanton Friedman on a broadcast or in person, how he never really had a down day where he didn't do well. He wasn't well spoken or had a great argument, even if he was in a debate. But the interesting thing was, too, is that no matter how many times you heard him speak, even if it was on a subject that you thought you knew very well yourself, he always had something new, something cutting edge to bring to the table that kept your interest and piqued your interest. So that is a fascinating person to be able to have to say that we will not be dealing with and looking up to in person here for forever at this point, from this point on. But I think you're probably right in assuming that there will be some people
now I believe that will step forward and kind of take up his mantle and go forward from here, because we've got, obviously Kathleen Martin. Just think of the relationship that she had, almost like brother and sister, family members almost, with Stanton. I can imagine what he might have confided with her or to her, and given her the opportunity after the grieving period is over, of course. It will be very interesting to keep an eye on Kathleen and see where she moves in this whole field of ufology and what she might bring to the table or disclose at one point as well.
I think Kathleen, in the discussions that I've had with her, and I don't want to say that they've been in depth, but I have spoken to her several times about the larger issue of what we're talking about, and she is one. She's an excellent writer, first of all. She's an excellent writer and an excellent researcher, and I think Stanton's passing is opening a huge door for her, not with just respect to her own work, but with her judicious attempts to provide the rest of us with the information that either has been shared by Stanton with her, and some of the information that she has, on her own to move forward. And I think that whatever attempts that she will make in the future to provide a more in-depth of an analysis of what's going on, I think Stanton's passing, in a way, has opened another door for her to continue, what Stanton has done. And in a lot of ways, too, if you consider Stan a patriarch, whenever a patriarch in a family passes on, that patriarch has information that resides in that patriarch only. And sometimes patriarchs share information with family members that only those family members can control or do with what they may. And I think that's the position that Kathleen could be in right now. I think, underline the word could be, and sustaining some sort of future for her to unlock some of the things that Stanton has found out that we talked about earlier that he may have been privy to. So I think that the story and, the point has been raised after the grieving process is it comes to some sort of fruition that she may be, in fact, the matriarch of the next step in Canadian ufology anyways.
Tom Whitmore from MUFON, knowing that Stanton was such an important supporter of what you guys do, from Jan Harzan all the way down, does MUFON have a meeting about this to see if they could possibly get some of those research papers from the estate in order to, maybe build some sort of museum or archive for the public to see his work?
Well, like I said, Dave, you've made an excellent point. It's on my to-do list.
Well, that would be good.
That's a good point. I don't know what more to say than it's on my to-do list, and I will follow up on that.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you brought that up.
Yeah.
I think you guys should.
Yeah. It's a very similar situation, David, with respect to the work of John Mack. A very similar situation with respect to the abduction phenomenon. So I think we're with every passing of someone like Stanton and John, the doors open again for those who come after to follow up with the kinds of actions that need to be taken to promulgate the information that these fine people have done on their own, because it can't sit still. That information cannot remain inert. It must in some way retain or at least regain a life of its own, even though the initiator of the information has passed. What's there needs to be put forward, and especially in the time that we're in with respect to this sort of, whatever you want to call it, pre-disclosure era. Every scintilla of important information, be it what the ATIP program is telling us, what the people in the Pentagon are telling us, with To the Stars Academy, all of that stuff is bringing us to the precipice of some type of disclosure. And whether Stanton's information or John Mack's information is viable with respect to the movement of that information, there is no other alternative for us other than getting that information out. There's no sense in keeping it. You don't hide a candle under a basket.
That's right. Victor, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we got to step out for break. Victor Viggiani, Tom Whitmore, Michael W. Hall. We continue the Stanton Friedman tribute on Spaced Out Radio right after this.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thor, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch. Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website, including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Remember, if you've missed part of this show and the tribute to Stanton Friedman or any other of our shows, you can go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. If you're looking for our website, it is currently under construction at spacedoutradio.com. You can still listen to the show there as well. But don't worry. In about a week, we're going to have a brand new looking website. It's going to look awesome. I've been told that by the Gavinator, so we'll stay tuned for that. Tonight, we are joined by Michael W. Hall from the UFO I-Team in Washington State, Victor Viggiani from Zealand Communications in Toronto, and Tom Whitmore from MUFON, talking about Stanton Friedman and the tribute that is going on for him after we all learned of his passing yesterday in Toronto at the age of 84. It's a big, big hole in ufology, Michael. Who fills it?
Well, we've already talked about, Kathleen Martin. We've already talked about Grant Cameron and Peter Davenport and Richard Dolan. There are some heavyweights that are already there. And I think what we're going to see is each one of them kind of doubling down in there. I get the feeling that when a major event happens like this, a passing in any kind of a family, the rest of the family kind of decide or take stock of themselves, saying, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? What can I do to make a difference, like our colleague just did, who passed and did so well. you kind of, whenever you go to a memorial service, a funeral, or anything like that, you kind of take stock of your own life as well and wonder about that. So I'm hoping that we will all, and especially those ones that are already there and still running the race, if they'll take stock of what they have done with their careers and what they are planning to do for the next few years down the road here, I would hope that we would all be encouraged by Stanton's life and his progress that he has made in our field, and just go for it at this point. I don't see why we need to hold back at this point. We need to just go forward and bring all of the wishes and hard work that we've put into it to the table and just get it over with now.
Tom, is it time to start turning ufology over to this next generation, or is there still a lot of life left in a lot of these veterans who have been doing this? I call them the A-listers around here. I think of Richard Dolan in that category, Grant Cameron, Kathleen Martin, Melinda Leslie, just to name a few.
Yeah, well, Richard Dolan is still a pretty young man. I think he's going to be around for quite a while, God willing. But I think that the younger generation's coming up, and they will advance the field as it should be advanced. But it's going to be done, I think, in a completely different way through the internet and through social media. And as I said before, I think that the whole scene is being decentralized. We have individuals that will be working as individuals, but they will come together in different ways than we have in the past before we had the internet. And what I'm trying to say is maybe the organizations like MUFON, if we go out, enough years, maybe that's not the future. There's going to be more of a coalescing and grouping of individuals through social media and cooperating in that way. Now, there's got to be some kind of coordination, but databases can be set up. All kinds of communication can be arranged. Reports can be taken through individuals and through groups, like I said, coalescing into these efforts. So the younger generation, I'll give you an example. I have a daughter that's 24 years old. And I'm trying to sell my house, and I'm going through everything in my house. I'm getting ready to move and take on a new life, and I'm looking at major appliances, and I'm trying to find the manuals, and I'm sticking them onto the appliances with tape. And I was telling my daughter that, and she said, "Dad, people don't even read manuals anymore. They just read it. They just Google it." And that's how the thinking is so different now with the younger generation. And I can guarantee you they will find a better way to do this.
Victor, younger generation of ufologists that are out there right now. They're aggressive. They're getting that information. Some people don't even know how they're getting it, but they seem to be out there. But they seem to be slanted on opinion a lot more than they do on gaining the facts like Stanton Friedman has, or people like Richard Dolan or Grant Cameron.
Well, yeah, the analogy of appliances and manuals is a good one, because I'm going through a very similar situation in some home renovations, and fine, you got your manuals and you tape them to the appliance, and no, Dad, you just go on the internet and you find out how it works, because the manuals are all there. I think that's another really great metaphor in a very strange way, because the new people that are coming along, and if my grandchildren are any indication of that, I have a grandson who's 8 years old, and he can assemble some of these small toys, these Star Wars figures, and he can assemble these things in literally minutes. And if I look at the box, it would take me a month to put it together. There is something about the youth today and their capacity to assemble information that's unlike anything that I could ever consider replicating. They're living in a different modality. They're living in a different intellectual modality of understanding bits and pieces of information, and they have ways of getting to the information, getting at the information, and then assembling it in a way that makes sense to them. And then when they do that on an individual basis, the coalescence of some of these young people in the groups that they're forming, it's almost like a collective hive that they've developed. These young people have a way of internalizing and interpreting information in a way that my generation, the generation that we are all part of, cannot get at. There's something in the DNA of these young people today that coalesces information in a way that we don't understand. And I think that could be the next move in the UFO movement towards disclosure, or even after disclosure. We've brought disclosure to a point where it's going to become something self-evident. But I think this next generation of people, of young people, is going to take it to another level of assembling in a way that makes sense to all of the people who don't know anything about this. And the other metaphor that I use is that you sit in a restaurant, a crowded restaurant, and I've done this with people before. I'll sit with a person, we'll talk about the UFO issue at length, much like exactly what we're doing right now. But then I ask the person who I'm having dinner with, and we're among maybe 100 people who are in the restaurant, and I ask them the question, how many people in this restaurant right now are talking about what you and I are talking about? The answer would be 0. What I want to do is make sure that restaurant is filled with people not only having dinner, but talking about this UFO issue in exactly the same way as we are talking about it right now. That's the goal that I have. And I think the young people who have the capacity to assemble the information the way I described earlier, they will be able to make people in restaurants, on streetcars, at football games, and everywhere. They will be the ones that will allow the rest of humanity to engage in a discourse of this information and ask the question that I had asked earlier. How long has this been going on, and why the hell don't I know about it? So that's something that I think we have to rely on these young people to do, simply because of their advanced intellectual acuity to assemble information in ways that you and I have no idea about.
Well, we'll see where it ends up going, because obviously we're getting to that point where there's going to be a transition as we all get older each day. And, with Stanton Friedman being around for 50 plus years in this field, that is the exception and not the norm, even though this is a field, Michael, where you don't really have to retire, but people are finding their own gems in ufology as they do their own research. So it's one of those things where that next young person in this might be somebody who's our age, but comes up with some brand new ideas.
Yeah, you're right. Matter of fact, I was thinking just now, hearing what we were talking about, the idea of the 100th monkey effect, where the young people are into this, you might want to call it a continuum even. They're so connected to one another. At one point in our societal evolution, we are going to get to that, whatever percentage it takes, to just be the tipping point where all of a sudden the knowledge, the experience, and the consciousness of reality is going to kick in to everyone. Once you get to that certain level of people that know the truth and are talking about it, like you said, in restaurants, and they hear about it on the street corner or in their everyday conversations, all of a sudden it just takes on like wildfire. And I think we're not that far off. I've raised 4 adult children myself. They are a whole nother species that we could never have been like ourselves in our youth. And I think it's going to prove them in good stead as we get to that point in our evolution where we kind of go beyond our own own minds, and we get to more of a realization that we're all together in this somehow. Once we get past all of our nationalities and cheerleader kind of attitudes, that we're better than someone else. And I think these young people are poised on the brink of being able to do that. They are mostly world thinkers at this point, even as teenagers.
That's a good way to put it. Very good way to put it. When you look at Stanton Friedman, as we only got about 7 minutes left in this show, Tom, you chatted with him face to face. You got to know him over the years. Is there a story outside ufology that really humanized the legend for you that you could share?
Well, not outside ufology, but I will say that there was a point at which the Roswell subject was coming up, and Stanton Friedman had done a lot of the original investigation on Roswell. And Robert Bigelow helped Stanton Friedman go to New Mexico and do further investigation and research. And I've always been kind of touched by that because in my experience with Stanton coming to San Antonio to give a talk and being with him, I knew that he was not rich, and you don't get rich in the UFO field. And I was, like I said, I was rather touched that Stan was able to research something really almost, I think, for the first time properly, with proper travel and accommodations and financial support. And that's something that I've taken away from my relationship with Stanton Friedman.
How about for you, Victor?
Well, it goes back to what I mentioned earlier in the program with his presence at the University of Toronto Convocation Hall as a speaker, as one of the speakers when Paul Hellyer came forward. And during that period of time, Stanton was staying at a hotel, and I picked him up because he had to catch a flight. And we had, almost a half a day where we just literally had nothing to do. We had a bit of lunch. Then we came back to my house, and we just sat and chatted for a while. And of course, it would be, about, the UFO field and topics, so on and so forth. But I can visualize right now him sitting in the chair in my living room, and he took on a different persona. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but when Stanton was speaking in front of an audience, he always had this bravado, or whatever you want to call it, with the confidence that he had in his own research and knowledge. And that's the Stanton that I knew at the time, and having interviewed him on the radio, etc. But sitting in a chair in my living room, he became a very humble and gentle figure as he spoke, and we talked about different things, life experiences, etc. And it was almost as if he took on the persona for me personally as a father figure. He was an extremely humble man. He would sit with his hands folded on his lap. He would look at you in the eye and talk to you directly. And that kind of humbleness really kind of got to me, because this wasn't the man that I knew, or that I thought that I knew. So on a personal level, getting inside the man, getting to know that personal part of him was very enlightening for me as a way to understand what his professional work was. So you know the man on one level, but then all of a sudden he portrays himself to you in another way, in a more gentle form. It really it brings you an authenticity to a person like that. And that's what I learned from Stan, that he was a very, very authentic person. And to this day, that's the way I will remember him.
Michael, with the legend now passing, do you look at somebody like Peter Davenport, who is a client of yours, as a rare commodity now in the field of ufology?
Oh, I do, definitely. There's some analogies that I draw on some of these heavyweights in ufology, Grant Cameron and Peter Davenport, Stanton Friedman. Each one of them, believe it or not, even up to the very end of Stanton's life, I know, would answer their own telephones. I mean, I don't know if you've ever called the National UFO Reporting Center, but Peter Davenport picks up the phone. Stanton was the same way. They would actually, not have a secretary. They would answer the phone. I know people would sometimes tell me that I called Stanton Friedman this one time. He picked it up and I was aghast that he was actually answering his own phone. Of course, Grant Cameron.
And there goes Michael's phone again.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta love that. Victor, pick it on up.
That's exactly right, because Stanton told me during one of those conversations, he said, Victor, call me anytime. And I did that. I can't count the number of times I've called Stanton, whether I've had a lapse of thought with some project that I have, or I needed advice. If you called Stanton's number, Stanton picked up the phone, and he was always there without any kind of, I'm too busy, I can't talk to you now. He never, ever did that. And once again, it points to the authenticity of the man and the traditional approach that he had to personal interactions about what he believed in very fervently. And many people who are involved in this right now today, because of how busy they are, they don't have the time to talk. But Stanton did. He always did. And I think that's something that was very precious about him, and that's going to live on as a legacy. And that I would hope the people that are involved in this right now, like the Peter Davenports of the world, will continue to do that, because that's the way authentic information gets transferred, gets talked about, it gets imbued into the personal aspects of what this issue is and how it affects the whole human family.
Victor Viggiani.
I have a similar story.
We only got, Tom, we got about 20 seconds, bud.
Well, he answered the phone after forgetting that we had an appointment with him, and he answered the phone right then and met with our whole group. That's the way he was.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, yes. Gentlemen, I want to say thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio during this momentous and very special show. Victor Viggiani, Zealand Communications, Tom Whitmore from MUFON, Michael W. Hall from the UFOI team, along with earlier on tonight, we had Peter Davenport from UFORC, Stephen Bassett from the Paradigm Research Group, and Canadian UFO researcher and good friend of Stanton Friedman, Chris Rutkowski. Tomorrow night on Spaced Out Radio, we go to Ghosts of the Great White North. Mike Morin and Morgan Knudsen join us, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Thank you to our brand new affiliate, KDNF, AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas, for tuning us in for the first time tonight. Really appreciate you taking the time. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Thank you so much for being a part of this show, taking part in the chat rooms on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio, at home, in your cars, at work, wherever you may be, because together, my friends, we own the night. I will talk to you in 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a good night, everybody. Rest in peace, Stanton Friedman. We love you, and we're going to miss you. Good night.